The scream came first. Then the whack of cane on skin. Then silence. Thick, heavy and cold. It was not yet 8 a.m. and fear had already filled the air in government secondary school, Yanadu. Students of JS 2C sat in rows. Their backs straight, eyes forward, hearts beating fast. No one talked. No one looked around. Everyone waited. Click-clack, click-clack. Miss Florence's heels hit the floor like gunshots as she walked in with her cane. She called it democracy, but everyone knew it brought only pain. She stood in front of the class, holding her homemade civic education textbook, a small, badly printed book with her name on the cover. It cost 1,500 naira. And if you didn't buy it, you were finished. Stand up if you haven't bought my book, she said coldly. 7 students rose slowly. Their knees shook. Their eyes were down. Miss Florence smiled, but it was not a kind smile. It was sharp and bitter like dry pepper. You think you can come to my class for free? She asked. You think civic education is cheap? No one answered. Come out. Come out now. The 7 students walked slowly to the front of the class. Miss Florence raised her cane. But. One by one, she beat them across their backs and arms. Some cried. Some begged. One fell. But Miss Florence didn't stop. Next time, tell your parents to stop being poor, she said. Then she looked up and saw her. A new girl. Sitting in the last row. Alone. Hey you. Who are you? Miss Florence shouted. The girl stood up slowly. My name is Sarah, she said quietly. Her voice was calm. To come. The class turned to look at her. No one had noticed when she came in. No one knew who she was. Miss Florence squinted. You're new, and you're already sitting in my class like you're a madam? I came to learn, Sarah said. Not to talk. The room fell silent again. Every student held their breath. Miss Florence walked down the aisle, cane swinging in her hand. Did you buy my book? She asked. No, Sarah said. Miss Florence grinned. Come out. Now. Sarah walked to the front. Her eyes were dark like deep water. Her face looked older than her age, even though she was just 13. She wore a faded blue dress and carried no school bag. Bend down, Miss Florence ordered. Sarah bent slightly. Miss Florence raised her cane. But Sarah did not cry. But she did not move. But still nothing. A chill went through the class. It was the first time they had ever seen someone stand that still after 3 full strokes. Miss Florence frowned. Her cane slowed. She hit again. But Sarah looked up and said quietly, Is this how you teach civic values? Miss Florence froze. The class gasped. What did you say? The teacher whispered. I asked a question, Sarah replied. Miss Florence's face turned red. Go back to your seat, she shouted. Sarah walked back calmly, her steps light like nothing had happened. The class could not stop staring. After that day, nothing in JSS 2C felt normal. The next morning students arrived early. The story of Sarah had already spread like fire across the school. She didn't cry. She took 4 strokes like it was rain. She asked Miss Florence a question. Just like that. Students whispered in the hallways. Some laughed. Some nodded in respect. But Miss Florence, she was boiling. In the staff room, other teachers had heard the story too. So one small girl made you freeze. Mr. Bola teased. She has spirit, said Mrs. Iriti, the principal. Maybe that's what we need more of. Miss Florence didn't reply. She was biting her lip hard. I'll deal with her today, she whispered. That Thursday the sky was gray. Storm was coming. In class, Sarah sat at the back again. Alone. Miss Florence walked in with 2 canes this time. No greetings. No roll call. Just fire in her eyes. Sarah. Stand up. Sarah rose. I'm not in the mood for pride today, the teacher snapped. You think you're brave. Let's see how brave you really are. She raised the cane. But this time before it came down, something unexpected happened. Sarah caught it. Her hand moved fast. She grabbed the cane midair and held it tight. Class gasped again. Miss Florence pulled. Kosera held on. Then gently, she pulled the cane from the teacher's hand. Only, quietly, without shouting. And then, to everyone's shock, she turned the cane and handed it back. "Use it right," she said. Miss Florence's hand shook. Her lips trembled. Kosera walked back to her seat. But the room had already changed. The next period, Miss Florence didn't return. The school was buzzing. What happened? Did she cry? Did Kosera really take the cane from her? During break, 3 students came to sit with Kosera. "We've never seen anyone like you," one said. Kosera just smiled. "I'm not anyone," she said. "I just don't like wickedness." By the next week, the tension had grown. Miss Florence came to class again, this time with a new cane, longer and thicker. She didn't speak. She just pointed at Kosera. "Come out." Kosera stood. "Bend." This time something in the air changed. A student in the front row stood up. "She didn't do anything wrong," he said. Then another girl stood. "She's just learning like the rest of us." One by one, students began to rise. Miss Florence's hand shook. "Sit down," she shouted. No one moved. Then Kosera did the unthinkable. She walked to the teacher, looked into her eyes, and took the cane again. This time she dropped it to the ground. "No more," she whispered. Silence. Then one clap. Then 2. Then the whole class erupted. Students shouted. Some cried. Others picked up old notebooks and tore out the pages from Miss Florence's textbook. A boy threw the cane out the window. It was over. Kosera was taken to the principal's office. Miss Florence was already there, shouting. "She attacked me. She disrespected me. She should be suspended." Mrs. Ireti looked up slowly. "Did she beat you?" the principal asked. She grabbed the cane." "And what did you plan to do with it?" she asked. Miss Florence froze. "I heard you've been selling books for 1,500 naira, the principal said. "You know that's not allowed." Silence. Then she turned to Kosera. "Tell me, my dear, why didn't you report this earlier?" Kosera looked at the ground. "Because I've reported things before. But nobody listened." Her voice broke. "I've been beaten in people's homes. Starved. Used like a mop. Nobody listened. I just wanted to learn." Mrs. Ireti sat back. Her face changed. Something in her heart melted. "You will not be suspended," she said softly. "In fact, from today, if any teacher abuses a student, you will come directly to me." Miss Florence's mouth fell open. "Wah! You may leave now," the principal said to her coldly. Miss Florence walked out in shame. That week something shifted in the school. Kosera still sat at the back. She didn't talk much, but everyone respected her. The students of JSS 2C had peace again. And Kosera, she kept learning, quietly, bravely, stronger than ever. Because sometimes the loudest power is the one that comes in silence. The story of Kosera spread beyond the walls of JSS 2C. By Monday morning, her name had become something more. A quiet symbol. The girl who held the cane. The girl who didn't cry. The girl who made Miss Florence walk out without saying a word. In the dusty corners of the school, students whispered. "She's like a ghost. She just appears, then disappears." No, she's not a ghost. She's just not afraid. She stood there like stone, and the cane just stopped. But while the students spoke in awe, something darker was growing behind the doors of the staff room. Miss Florence had not returned home that Friday. She had stayed in the staff room long after school closed, staring at the window, her thoughts running wild. She had taught for 14 years. She had ruled for 14 years. And now, one poor girl had shattered that power with silence. Well, she couldn't accept it. That Monday morning, Miss Florence came back. But not with anger. She came with a plan. She smiled at the other teachers. She wore soft perfume and light makeup. She told Mr. Bola jokes and complimented Mrs. Ade on her new shoes. She even brought orange juice for the principal. But inside her bag was a new cane. And this one had metal wire twisted inside. She was going to break Kosera. When civic class began, the students felt it. The air was thick. The walls were quiet. Even the fans seemed afraid to spin. Miss Florence walked in slowly. No heels, no loud steps, just silence. She dropped her bag, took out her textbook, then placed the cane gently on the table, as if it were a knife. She looked around the room, smiling. "I hope you all had a restful weekend." No one answered. "Today we will revise Chapter 2, Rights and Responsibilities." Her voice was calm, almost too calm. She started reading. "Every citizen has the right to education. Every child has the right to protection. No one should be punished without reason." She paused. Her eyes moved to the back of the class. Kosera sat still, her hands folded. Her uniform was still too big for her. Her books were second-hand. But her eyes, they were the same. Dark and calm. Miss Florence smiled. "But if a citizen disrespects the law," she said slowly, "then punishment is fair." She slammed the book shut. "Stand up, Kosera." Class froze. Kosera stood up slowly. "Yes, Ma. Come out." Kosera walked to the front. Miss Florence picked up the cane. "I asked you a question last week. You embarrassed me. You took my cane. You walked into my heart and dragged my name into the dust." She raised the cane. The students rose. One by one. "Sit down," she screamed. No one sat. Kosera raised her hand gently. "May I speak?" "You may not," Miss Florence spat. But Principal Iriti had walked in. Quietly. Silently. She had heard everything from the doorway. "You may speak," she said. The class turned in shock. Miss Florence stepped back. Kosera turned toward the principal. "I'm sorry," she said. "But this is not about pride. This is about pain. And we have been in pain for too long." She turned to the class. "How many of you have been beaten with that cane?" All hands rose. "How many of you told someone?" Most hands dropped. "Why didn't you?" the principal asked. A girl whispered, "Because nobody listens." Another boy said, "Because she is a teacher." Kosera looked down. "That's why I didn't scream. Not because I'm strong. But because I'm tired." The class fell silent again. Principal Iriti walked slowly to the teacher's desk. She picked up the cane. She held it up, then snapped it in two. Miss Florence gasped. "You will leave now," the principal said quietly. Miss Florence shook. Her lips moved, but no words came out. She picked up her bag and walked out. No one said goodbye. The next week the school was different. A new teacher came in, young, kind, soft-spoken. Mr. Ndubizi. He smiled often and asked students how they felt. Civic education became fun. Students asked questions. There was no fear in the room anymore. But Kosera, she still sat at the back. She still wore her quiet face. And every now and then, when someone misbehaved, they'd look at her and remember the cane that never touched her skin again. One day, during break, a girl came up to her. "Why didn't you cry that day?" Kosera looked up. "Because I cried too much when I was younger. My tears are tired now." The girl nodded and said nothing more. But inside something had shifted. Kosera had touched their hearts. Not with shouting. Not with power. With silence. And that silence still echoed long after the cane was gone. The rain did not come that morning, but the sky was heavy with secrets. In the staff room, a letter sat on the table. It had no envelope, no name, just a single sentence written in quick, angry handwriting. "I resign." Miss Florence was gone. No goodbye, no explanation. Her desk was empty, her locker left open. Her pink slippers, always worn during break time, sat forgotten under the desk like broken promises. She had vanished, like a ghost chased out by her own shadow. But even though she was gone, her name still moved through the school like smoke. Did she really get fired? No. She ran away. I heard her husband left her. They say no school will hire her again. The stories grew. But Kosera, She said nothing. She came to school quietly. She sat quietly. She learned quietly. But inside her something had changed. And the change was not soft. It was sharp. One afternoon, a boy named Ao passed a note to Kosera during math class. It read, "Thank you for what you did. You made her stop." Kosera stared at the words for a long time. Then she folded the note and tucked it into her exercise book, right beside a page filled with red ink, the same color Miss Florence's cane had once left on her arm. Ao never asked her anything again. He knew better. Because sometimes the people who survive the most are the ones you shouldn't question too deeply. Weeks passed. Mrs. 2C grew louder, freer, even playful. The new civic teacher, Mr. Ndubizi, made learning feel like breathing. He used games. He asked what students thought. He brought news articles and told them real stories about the country. But even he noticed Kosera's quietness. One day he asked her a question. "Do you think civic values are real, Kosera?" She looked at him for a while. Then said, "I think people lie about them." And that was all. She didn't raise her hand again. It was during second term that Kosera stopped bringing her lunch. First no one noticed. Then one day, a girl saw her picking biscuit crumbs from her pocket. "You didn't eat." "I'm not hungry," Kosera said. The lie was smooth. Practiced. But that night Mrs. Iriti, the principal, called her into the office. "There's money in the school's welfare box," she said gently. "I heard you haven't been eating." Kosera looked at her, her face blank. "Why did you come to this school?" the principal asked. Kosera sat down. Then, for the first time, she spoke her truth. "I was a housemaid," she said. "From when I was 6. My aunt used to send me out to sell pepper. If I brought less than 500 naira, I got slapped. If I broke something, I got kicked. When I asked to go to school, she said, 'School won't feed you.'" He paused. "I ran away after she beat me with a spoon and I bled. Found someone who helped me. That's how I came here." Principal Iriti's eyes watered. Kosera looked down. "I don't want pity," she said. "I just want peace." It came, but it didn't stay. Because trouble always finds the quiet ones. 3 weeks later, Miss Florence returned. Not as a teacher, as a woman seeking revenge. She came one hot Tuesday, standing just outside the school gate, wearing dark glasses and a scarf. Some students screamed. Others ran. She didn't speak to anyone. She just stood watching. The gateman asked her to leave. She didn't. Only when the principal came out and stood face to face with her did she finally walk away. But she left a message with her eyes. Eyes that burned with unfinished stories. Later that day, the school went into lockdown. The teachers were told to be alert. Parents were called. Some students didn't return for a week. But Kosera came every day. She walked through the gate like she had nothing to fear. But inside, she feared everything. She started sitting at the edge of the classroom. Not the back anymore. She didn't want anyone behind her. She no longer used the school bathroom. She waited until she got home. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She didn't answer questions. Even her handwriting changed. It became smaller, tighter, like she was trying to disappear into the page. One morning during assembly it happened. A new teacher announced, "We are starting a new project, Civic Values in Real Life. We want each class to choose one student to represent them. Someone honest, brave, a symbol of change." Before he could finish, the students of JSS 2C shouted one name. "Kosera." She froze. Her eyes widened. She didn't want this. But it was too late. They cheered. They clapped. They pushed her forward. She stood on the stage beside the microphone. Everyone waited. She said nothing. Not even a word. After 30 seconds she stepped down. And walked away. That night she didn't sleep. She sat outside her guardian's house, looking at the sky. "I never wanted to be known," she whispered. "I just wanted to stop being hurt." By third term the school had returned to normal. But for Kosera, nothing was ever normal again. She had stopped talking in class. She had stopped writing full sentences in essays. When asked why she wasn't engaging anymore, she simply said, "I'm learning. I just don't want to be seen." The new teacher respected her silence. But others didn't understand it. Some students began saying she had changed. She used to be so bold. Now she acts like a shadow. Maybe the cane wasn't what broke. Maybe it was her. They were partly right. She hadn't broken. She had folded her heart like paper and kept it hidden. At the end of the school year, there was a ceremony. Awards were given. Certificates were shared. Kosera got the highest score in civic education. When her name was called, she walked up slowly. No smile. No claps from her. She collected the paper and returned to her seat. Then, just before the principal closed the ceremony, she paused and said, "There are some students who speak loudly, and others who speak with silence. But let no one forget the quiet ones." She didn't say Kosara's name. But everyone knew. After the ceremony, as the sun set behind the school, Kosera sat alone under a tree. She looked at the certificate in her hand. It didn't mean much, because some wounds don't heal with paper. A boy walked past and waved. She nodded. Then slowly, she folded the certificate in half and tucked it in her pocket. She looked at the sky again. That same sky that had watched her cry, watched her bleed, watched her survive. And then she whispered one final thing. "I'm not afraid of canes anymore. I'm afraid of remembering." She stood up and walked away. She did not turn back. And in the silence she left behind, a strange feeling grew. Not pride, not joy, but something colder. Something called mistrust. Because even though Miss Florence was gone, the pain she planted still lived in the soil of that school. And Kosera. She had learned how to survive, but never how to forget. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again, but if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.